This episode's brought to you by the Public Domain Shop, a clothing brand inspired by classic literature and film. Use the code WOLF to get 10% off your next sweatshirt purchase. Shelby Oaks is written and directed by Chris Stuckmann. This is his first feature film after making countless shorts, as well as being a YouTube movie reviewer for over a decade, being an inspiration for losers in their parents' basement like myself. And the film stars Camille Sullivan as Mia, a woman whose sister went missing 12 years prior while doing a YouTube channel about paranormal investigation. And for a series of circumstances, she begins to discover clues that can finally give her the answers she's looking for. I'd say how I was looking forward to this movie and grew up on Chris Stuckmann, but it's a cliche in his own videos to say stupid shit like that. But, yeah, I've been watching him ever since high school. If you go back and watch older videos on my channel, you can definitely tell that I ripped him off quite a bit in my early days, and probably later on in the early years of the pandemic, and up until the pandemic, really, he was the main guy I would go to for an opinion on a movie that came out in order to go see it and think about it for myself. But then in the pandemic, he went soft. He started being more lenient towards movies and stopped reviewing bad ones entirely, really. Unless it's Crystal Skull, whenever he gets the chance to insult that, he kind of breaks that rule all the time. And part of the fun was seeing his anger, not only at movies he hated, but his love for movies that were so bad they were hilarious. The hilariosities. I loved that segment of his channel, and to see that go away because apparently that was too harsh of him, I never really picked up on that. Anyways, that's my thought on Chris Stuckmann. What do you think, Noah?
Alright, so as someone who, oh yeah, here we go.
As long as the microphone's not.
Is it green?
Yeah, it's green.
Hell yeah, alright. Okay, so as someone who had no prior knowledge of Chris Stuckmann at all, I kind of just went into this movie knowing it from the trailer, and that's it. And I was mostly happy with it. I had a good time. I'm not angling this very well at all.
It
Doesn't matter. Okay, we're gonna try that.
As long as you can see yourself.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's
okay. And this doesn't block the microphone, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, so, I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. It's just the tiny little part at the end. Do you have you have thoughts on that?
Oh, we're gonna talk about that fucking ending. You better believe that. But, I had quite a bit of stake in this one financially because I, in fact, am one of 14,000 people who contributed to Chris's Kickstarter for Shelby Oaks, to the point where one of the rewards I got for my purchase...
Guys, this is giving me so many
Yeah, in case you can't tell, we don't have Josh's van as a studio because he actually has important shit to do in his life. And it's not exactly like you could just scream, "Shut the fuck up, I'm trying to do something!" That would just be rude. Anyways, one of the benefits, in my case, of being a Kickstarter contributor is that on one of the posters they submitted, the one where Riley has the paranormal activity black eyes, if you look really closely, you can see all 14,000 names are imprinted in the poster, mine included, something I didn't even know until a few hours before I saw this movie. So, if nothing else, I got a Hollywood movie poster that has my actual name in it. There's quite a novelty to that. I'm never getting rid of it, despite the fact that, in my opinion, with the ending especially, this felt like the kind of movie that Chris would criticize back in his glory days, which is a shame because there's clearly a lot of passion in this, and even in his debut feature film, Chris does have a cinematic style of his own that is reminiscent of Mike Flanagan, David Pryor. You can tell that there's an influence of the Blair Witch Project, especially in the fact that not only are the first 15 minutes, the prologue of this film is basically this mockumentary rendition of what happened to Riley and some other characters that she did a YouTube channel with that really are just chess pieces for people to die in. One of the only gory deaths in this movie, I might add, which was a really cool scene, but I was kind of expecting more of that when there were scares, but we'll get more into that. But the mockumentary angle and the fact that there are several stick figure trigger stick figure, not figurines, stick figure trinkets that look remarkably like the Blair Witch symbol when you really think about it.
It's definitely, this movie draws on a lot of inspiration from the Blair Witch Project, but I know you didn't vibe with the mockumentary style as much, but I've never seen a film so seamlessly intertwine normal cinematic narrative style, found footage, and mockumentary. Just all three of them playing around with the three and doing it so seamlessly. I mean, the first time we switched from that mockumentary to reality, it's the perfect transition of, I mean, I don't know how spoilery we want to get with this.
As little as we can.
Yeah. But it works so well. It cuts immediately from the mockumentary crew after they've cut to, like, from their perspective, seeing what's happened, to then the intro credits with now reality. And then after the intro credits, you're into the movie. And it's so good.
There is definitely technique in incorporating all different kinds of found footage and camera angles. Like, there are sequences that you can clearly tell are meant to be represented as VHS and cassette tapes. There is a lot of nostalgia baiting with analog technology, like VHS, digital camcorder. One thing I definitely liked about the mockumentary style was that how it switched from different aspect ratios to show what era they're trying to replicate. So the 90s is completely done in 1:1 Academy. The modern day stuff is kind of formatted like a TV documentary where it's bigger but it's still square. And then once it does do a pretty good match cut from the camera crew to reality, it goes right back into this blue hinted anamorphic that you see in a lot of horror movies, but it's still done really well. And I will say, there are a lot of Empty Man vibes in this movie, which is very fitting because David Pryor is listed in the special thanks and probably gave notes when he saw a rough cut, but not just in the fact that, minor spoilers, the villains are a cult and they kind of operate in the same way the Empty Man cult does. There are a lot of sequences that are done through visual storytelling where it's just the main actress going from one location to the next with a flashlight, and it cuts back and forth from her stunted reactions, and we see whatever's imprinted on the walls, or these disgusting layers of an abandoned house, or a seemingly abandoned house that just has black mold everywhere on the fucking walls, beer bottles all over the place, even moments where you can predict a certain twist is going to happen. Like, there's a scene with a rug in the middle of the floor where I just sat there and went, that rug is so big, I'm willing to bet that there's a trap door. And sure enough, there was, but I will say this, there was a certain era of suspense in that it didn't go exactly the direction I thought it would. And the nicest thing I can definitely say is, for all the criticism that Chris has had with horror and jump scares and false alarms, he really sticks by his values. Every jump scare in this is warranted, it fits the scene, there isn't a loud jolt of music, there's usually something like a soft piano key or a tug on a string. There's one false alarm, and it's really without any sound, and it actually comes at a legitimately creepy moment where the camera crew from the YouTube channel is looking at what they think is a shadow of someone stalking them from the cabin, but the minute they open the door, I'm not really sure why they opened the door, but in any case, once they open it, nobody's there, and there's a rocking chair just moving. It's a cliche, but it's put in an appropriate place. And Chris, I will say, is good at taking certain cliches that legitimately work in horror and utilizing them to his fullest.
And I completely agree with that. It's the way that he did a great job making sure that it wasn't just a jump scare fest, that every jump scare that there was earned, like you said, but planned carefully. The tension was built, and even when there wasn't a jump scare, he focused on having long shots on the empty spaces to constantly keep you on the edge of when the next jump scare would happen. And oftentimes, nothing would. And that's how you do jump scares in movies, in my opinion, instead of just having a jump scare every time.
One shot that really stuck out to me was this long shot of the main character, Mia, sitting on her front porch, and her entire body is in a frame within a frame of, like, a patio fence that shapes her as if she's in a prison. That was a really good shot. And speaking of prison, the best sequence in this movie, in my opinion, that emphasizes how good he is at building up tension, silence, and ambient sound design. The sound design and mixing in this is really well done. Is an entire sequence where Mia goes to investigate an abandoned prison that, if you look really closely, you can tell is the same prison from Shawshank. I'm not fucking kidding. I don't know how much money he had to cough up in order to make that happen, but it was worth every penny. It's a naturally creepy environment. The main character really takes her time to, like, investigate what's going on. There are no cliches that you would associate with an abandoned prison, like the doors closing in on her or anything like that, which that was really refreshing. And speaking of the lead actress, I gotta give major props to Camille Sullivan. There are so many sequences where it is just her on the edge of losing her mind, maintaining her composure, and doing everything she can to locate her sister at all costs, sometimes to a fault, and the faults we'll get into later on. And while I do think there are times where they rely way too much on her just standing in shock and being so frozen that she has no time to panic or run, there were several times where they keep cutting back and forth from the unseen presence to her going that I just sat there and I'm like, run, bitch, run! But that's on the script. Whatever scenes are awkward or make her look awkward, it's not her fault.
She did a phenomenal job in this film. Genuinely, if she was even, 10% worse, the film would not have been what it is. Her performance makes the film. All the tension, all the emotion in every scene. A lot of this film has just no dialogue at times, as she's just alone exploring places, and it's just her. Thank God she doesn't talk to herself. She doesn't say quips. She just is alone with her thoughts, not said, just in her head, shaking, fucking terrified, ugly crying, trying to find where her sister is. And it is just so realistic. Back to the prison, she was holding this flashlight, and it was shaking. Her hand shaking the entire time. A lot of this movie, you see her breath, like ours right now. It's cold out here. But it just all... I'm fine. Alright. It just all came together so beautifully. The lighting too. Generally, there was never a moment that I felt like I needed to see something, but I couldn't because it was too dark. The lighting was there. The flashlights used were beautiful. The way they just, the beam of light coming from them, especially, again, in the prison, definitely. It's just also gorgeous. And then, of course, you had the trope of the flashlight going out. But it worked here. Yeah. It worked here. And I can't put my finger on why here it worked. I guess it's just because it was earned. Because it was silent up until that point. She didn't talk. She wasn't like, oh, what's this? Let's walk into the cell, and oh God, I hope it doesn't close on me. No, there was none of that. It was just she was silent. She was scared. She knew which cell she had to go to from detective work. She went there. She looked around, and then the flashlight went out, and she was fucking terrified. Rightfully so. And it just worked.
And of all the side actors in this one, because again, Sullivan really does... The movie does lean a lot on Sullivan's shoulders in order for you to feel any stakes or characterization, because there are a lot of one-time or two-time characters. Ryan Sexton III as the dumb, ignorant husband in particular, who was not a good actor in my opinion. He just looked way too wide-eyed and stunted, which... That's a cliche that I've seen Chris complain in a few videos. I'm not really sure why he included that, but of all the side actors in this, probably my favorite goes to Keith David in an extended cameo as a prison warden, where he's over the top, but he's not loud about it. He really takes his time. He emphasizes the vowels in his sentences. and he just grins and stunts because of all the traumatic shit that he's seen. And only an actor like Keith David can pull something like that off. He's just macho and badass in that way, and I loved it. And I don't know who the main villain is, but she was legitimately really good. She's the old lady cliche that you see in a lot of horror movies about cults, but what really stood out in this one is that there are so many sequences where you don't actually see her face. The most we get is a silhouette with maybe some glowing eyes here and there. And she also has like that decrepit but still kind of sinister voice where she doesn't have to go over the top in order to sound simultaneously innocent and evil at the same time. She's not Aunt Gladys, charming yet evil, but she does come really close. And when she does explain her evil plan, she doesn't turn into a Saturday Night villain. If anything, she doesn't really explain herself. She just does shit.
And I respect the fuck out of her for just doing it. She had a plan, she stuck to it, and it worked. Good for her.
Yeah, well... Speaking of that plan, ever since last year, when early reviews of this came out, before there was a month of reshoots that allegedly made this movie gorier, I'm not really convinced of that because there were only 2 or 3 gory moments in the movie for me. And also some stuff that Stuckmann apparently didn't have the budget to include before. I'm assuming it's the demon in question because he hired an actor named Derek or Steven Mears. I can't remember which one is which, but he's best known as playing Jason in the Friday the 13th remake and the Swamp Thing. So like when there's a giant figure right behind Mia and it has these glowing yellow eyes that blink, letting you know that there's something there, but if you blink yourself, you could miss the fact that there's something demonic behind her. I'm assuming those are the scenes that feature him, because he's normally a horror stunt performer. Hell, he was an alien in M. Night Shyamalan's Signs, which, given how many sequences there are of characters watching VHS tapes and reacting to something horrific, I'm willing to bet that Joaquin sequence from Signs definitely inspired a couple of those scenes as well. There's no way it didn't, knowing how much Chris loves Signs. But, of all the years I've seen Chris talk about horror movies, one thing that is prevalent is how much he likes to talk about how people make stupid decisions for the sake of the plot. And Mia, as much as I like the performance, does some things that are very questionable that I don't really understand why they're in the script. There are several points where she could have had a knife and used it at any point, and then they cut to close-ups of her dropping the knife because she got emotionally distracted by something, which I kind of understand, but I'm also just sitting there like, tuck it under your knee or your foot so that you can still fucking grab it and use it. Like, she doesn't have to use it, no one takes the knife from her, but it's also for some other ridiculous, contrived reasons. There are a lot of mistakes like that, but that's the one that really stuck out to me, especially when it came to the ending. Both of them, because there are 2 climaxes, neither of which are really satisfying, and they both rely on this underlying theme that we as people can turn a blind eye against evil in order to get something that we want. Because without spoiling anything, Mia has a backstory where her and her husband have had issues in the past, which is supposed to explain why she makes this drastically dumb decision, ignoring a supernatural event that happened right in her eyes. And you can't tell me that she was knocked unconscious because she saw what the fuck was going on before that. But because of a minute's worth of backstory that's told through exposition in one sequence where her and her husband turn a blind eye against each other and there's this object in the background that I guess was supposed to be visual storytelling, but this is not the kind of subject that you just pass off with one image. Like, it's a life-changing decision, and it affects the entire climax of the movie. So we needed, in my opinion, a lot more depth to explain both of those, because there comes a point where someone else says, "Are you crazy? We can't live with this decision. We have to make this sacrifice." And she's like, no, I like this source of evil. Let me keep this source of evil. And that's where we get what can be an unintentionally hilarious ending, not once, but twice, because it involves dogs coming out of nowhere. And that's all I'm going to say in that regard. Because, frankly, I've been word salading my words on this a hell of a lot more, because I want to spoil it, but I can't. Maybe when I get home, I'll do it, but I don't know.
I mean, hell, I'm in the mood to spoil it right now if we just put giant spoiler warnings.
You know what? Fucking go for it.
All right. So, okay. So the whole movie, I forget, or Riley. Yeah, ever since she was a kid, she had nightmares about a guy outside her window, and crack would be on the window, whatever, and yada, yada, yada. Fast forward to present, it does come full circle, and I like that it came full circle. The fact that the window got more cracks after Riley was trying to kill the demon baby, and then Mia stopped her and accidentally shoved her out the cracked window from her childhood bedroom. So it was the same. It was the same window with the same crack in it for all this time, and it was the crack that was there that Mia saw. So I love that it came full circle. It just came out of nowhere, and it ended very quickly. She got pushed out the window, crashed down, bunch of demon dogs came and ate her, and then we see Mia standing there shocked, and then good old Beelzebub just pats her on the shoulder like, there, you committed murder against your sister, but I'm here for you.
Since we spoiled that one bit of the ending, I should make some context. The angry cult lady, it turns out, basically, I guess, forced her son to kidnap Riley and do some things that I'm not going to say out loud because there are other people in our midst, and I don't want to spoil the movie for anyone who might want to see it. But they've been using her in a fertile way in order to find a host for a demon. And the first climax of this movie, it actually works. Like, there's a blood ritual, and we can only assume that this baby, Riley's daughter and Mia's nephew, I believe it's a boy, I'm not entirely sure, I don't know, is the host for the devil, kind of like Damien in The Omen or something like that. Or hell, Chris loves Hereditary so much you can say that this is probably a reference to that. It very well could be. Those pagan symbols looked a little bit like the Hereditary ones, with a bit of Blair Witch. But the backstory Mia has between her and her husband is that they tried to have a child, but just couldn't because they couldn't. And of course, Riley going missing for 12 years fucked up that plan too. But because of that minute's worth of exposition, she looks at her nephew, realizes that she can have a baby in her life at any point, regardless of the fact that it'll probably be the Antichrist, it'll probably come out and kill us all. She's just like, hi, you're coming home with us. And I'm just sitting there going, are you fucking kidding me? This is the context that we're going with. But Riley, understandably knowing, even though it's her baby, is also a body for a source of evil. And it's just like, you know what? It's for the greater good. I'm in a tough place right now, but even I can tell that something's wrong. And Mia's just like, oh no, you are not taking this baby away from me. Bitch, it's my baby. I don't care. You're not taking it away from me. And long story short, much like the ending of Presence, she accidentally throws her out the window, which that was executed in a very clumsy way. And then she gets eaten by dogs who I guess drag her to hell or something like that. I'm assuming that's...
I think they just eat her.
Or they just eat her. I don't know. Where the fuck did those dogs come
They're
from?
demon dogs.
Yeah, they're demon dogs.
They're hellhounds.
Fucking Bye Bye Man had a demon dog. Hell, the opening kill in this was kind of like the Bye Bye Man. This is not a good sign.
One thing I actually disagree with Tyler with is I don't think the reason why Mia wanted to keep the baby was because she was like, oh, this is my baby now, the baby that I could never have. I still think that, like, Mia was like, this is still a baby. This is still, like, an actual baby, even though, and I feel like a small part of her was maybe like, okay, I don't actually know if this ritual, right, but there's, and that's the thing.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
And so I feel like that's what I got of, it wasn't that she was like, Riley, you're not gonna kill my new baby, that was yours. I think it was more, this is still, at the end of the day, a baby that shouldn't die, even though it is the literal Antichrist, presumably. But, you know, I kind of wish Riley went through with, or was able to go through with it, because I would have respected the movie for killing the baby.
I definitely would have respected the guts that they had. I don't know. I think when Chris was writing the movie, he had just had his twins, so there's a good possibility that he wouldn't have went with that, which reminds me, I know that his wife Sam gave herself a cameo, and technically she helped write the treatment for this movie, but were those their baby boys when she was holding them in that one scene? Because that's...
Oh, I think so, because in the credits it mentioned 2 people with the same last name that were, like, kids. I think.
I'd have to look it up on my phone, but I understand the ruling out the possibility that it was spiritual, but at the same time, like, she saw her sister levitate, and she got pushed with, like, a weird magneto jolt. So, like, maybe it's the false memory thing that she's attributing it to, but I felt like if there was at least a conversation between the two of them to at least, like, debate the ethics. Like, the, what if baby you-know-who got taken out of the picture early? Like, if they had that kind of conversation, maybe, but then again, even Marvel threw that joke out the window with Deadpool 2, so, who really knows, other than both climaxes should have just been all together, not give a 5-minute space in between, and should have had, like, a physical confrontation as opposed to an emotional one, because when you just rely on emotional climaxes, you have to be a really good writer in order to sell that, especially subtly. Is there really anything else to say about the movie?
As much as I enjoyed it, I was definitely let down by the ending. However...
Feel free to repeat whatever,
yeah.
Feel free to repeat whatever Vin Diesel had to say there.
Vin Diesel said, anyways. That was stupid. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, as I was saying, as much as I enjoyed this movie, I was definitely a little bit let down by the ending. However, it looked great. It got me a good few times. I got scared. I was on edge. The tension was there. The dogs were adorable. I love the dogs so much. I don't care that they're demon dogs. They're adorable. All dogs are adorable.
I feel like Chris will give you a pass on that one. He's a dog cat.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for putting more dogs in your movies so I could point and go just in my head. It cut all the tension for me. I went, oh my god, you're so cute. And I wanted to head pat them so bad and boop their snoot. Anyways, I loved it. Besides the ending, I was a little bit let down, but overall, I really enjoyed it.
I did find it more creepy than scary, but I can't deny the fact that there were several points where through the visual style, the emphasis on visual storytelling when it was there, the fact that he finds so many different ways to pastiche every kind of horror that you can put your hands on. Supernatural, psychological, found footage, mockumentary, you name it. He loves this genre. And for a debut film with this exact story, I think this probably was as good as it could get. I would call it an all-right movie at best, but I'm not going to say just because I donated to Kickstarter and was let down by the movie that I wasted it, because I earned that back with like a week's paycheck. It was really no big deal. And also, the fact that a YouTuber got to make a movie on this caliber with this much at his disposal and used it as wisely as he could, it is impressive. He's not the first YouTuber to become a filmmaker, but he is one of the first YouTubers who primarily talked about movies. He didn't make shorts on YouTube like David F. Sandberg did. I know Dan Trachtenberg, who made like 10 Cloverfield Lane and Prey, was already a talker, a podcaster, but at the same time, Chris, through like millions of subscribers, has an influence. And he used it to the best of the ability. And that's really all I can say on that end. I kind of wish Josh was here. I'd love to hear his thoughts on it. But once I get the Blu-ray, because I think that's part of my package too, I'll let him rent it, see how it goes. So with... Oh, sorry, you got one more thing?
Yeah. Sorry, I also realized I wanted to say, if you're a fan of found footage, watch this movie. If you're a fan of mockumentary horror, watch this movie. Someone like me who loves those genres, it was really well done. But also, quick little fun game for you. what do you think Josh's opinion on this movie will be?
I think he'll be somewhere in between us. Like, he'll appreciate the craft, he'll like the lead performance, he'll definitely get a kick out of Keith David's extended cameo. He definitely won't like these endings. I'm not sure if, like us, he really got the intent of those endings. At least something tells me he'll struggle with it and do a Josh rant about that in particular, the last 5 minutes especially. But I think overall he'd be perfectly content with this one. Because of the three of us, he's been the most proud that Chris got to move on to be a legit a legit filmmaker. With all this background noise, I'm amazed that I've been able to be this articulate, but thanks, Josh, for having last-minute job, business, and life to attend to. Dick.
Imagine having a life.
Yeah, I mean, really, who does that? So rude. But in any case, guys, thanks as always for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you think of Shelby Oaks, and thank you to Noah for joining me in the cold on this one, in shorts in the middle of October.
Yeah, I'm the weirdo that is in t-shirt and shorts all year round in Canada because
there's that
that's
about
the
it.
answer. Yeah.
Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews. Next week is Over the Garden Wall week, where I'll have 2 videos up. One, a review of the Composer's Cut, which is a version of the show with no dialogue, no sound effects, just the music. How can you not love that? As well as a video essay on who I think Word and Greg's parents are and how we've technically seen their personalities throughout the show this entire time right under our noses. So look forward to that. Greg, why did I call you Greg other than you're wearing green? That's probably it. Noah's seen the show. He's given me the really, I'm curious look. So that's how I know I'm on a roll. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews. Check me out on Patreon, buy me a coffee, and I'll see you all in the next review, and we'll see him at some point later on. Take care.